Today, we're going to explore color blindness in detail. And I'd like to take the risk. Could you raise your hands if you yourselves are colorblind? There's a few. And for everyone else, if you personally know someone who is colorblind. That's pretty much everyone was one of the other. Cool. So hopefully you can learn something to help yourselves and the people around you today. So, a little introduction on who I am and what I'm doing up here. So, my name is Douglas Pennant. I work at the Creative Assembly in the United Kingdom. A short path of my career. So, I started off in the games industry in 2010 as a QA tester at Microsoft over in England. And I'm now an associate development manager. So, first rung of the production team at the Creative Assembly on their console team, working on our unannounced IP. And I am colorblind. I have severe deuteranopia. I think it is severe, and this shows up in the fact that I talk about it so much. Because a lot of people are quite quiet about their colorblindness. They don't think they don't realize how much it's affecting their lives. It's not a very well understood condition, even though the name is so widely spoken. So, what I'm going to cover today. So, I'm going to talk about exactly what colorblindness is. And there are going to be lots and lots of pictures. Take as many photos as you like. And so we'll try to understand the condition some more. Then this is a games conference, and we want to know, what does colorblindness do to the games we make? How does it affect the player experience? And then I'm going to drill down into some of the issues with Halo Wars 2. That was the last project that my team released, and some of the color issues that this had. And also going into details of why even if we understand the condition, what are some of the roadblocks to actually developing for colorblindness? And then, of course, as many solutions as I can give you, places where they've been used well, some where they've been used partially well, and some guidelines you can take to apply to your own games. So, straight to the condition. So what exactly is colorblindness? The simplest definition I could find is the inability or decreased ability to distinguish certain colors. This doesn't simply mean seeing in black and white. So, but before the disability, how do we see color normally? So in our eyes, we have two types of photoreceptor cells. We have rods and we have cones. The rods detect low-level light. So this is your night vision, which you don't have very good color in your night vision. The rods just pick up effectively black and white. And so low-level light to kind of help you survive. And they talk about many animals being colorblind. They have rods. They are effective at low-level vision. They don't need the color. Yeah, as I said. Cones are where we get all our color from. So they detect intense light. And we have three types of them. We have our red cones, our blue cones, and our green cones. And all the colors we see are combinations of these three hues in one way or another. And if you're lucky enough to have normal color vision, this is known as trichromacy. So chromatic. So there are multiple types of color blindness as well. So more than just even the three. So we have deuteranomaly, protanomaly, tritonomaly. And these are known as anomalous trichromacy. This is where there is a defect with the cones in your eyes, one of the types of cones. But you still have those cells. Then there is deuteranopia, which I suffer from, protanopia, and tritanopia. These are dichromacy. One of the types of cones is basically missing. And the different names are depending on which cone is missing. So deuteranopia is, well, I'll go into some more details shortly. I mentioned that this doesn't mean we see in black and white, but there are some people that do. This is a very rare condition. It is called achromatopsia, and it is, of course, monochromatic. And this only affects roughly 1 in 30,000 people, except in one place in the world. There is an island in Pingalap. It's in Micronesia in the Pacific, and around 25% of their population have achromatopsia. This was because of a natural disaster that wiped out most of the island, and in repopulating, one of the survivors had achromatopsia, and then this was passed down to a large part of the population through the genetics. So I'm going to focus on these three, because supporting deuteranopia, protanopia, and tritanopia accommodates for the anomalous trichromacies above, because these are the most extreme versions of them. So, first off, deuteranopia, which is, of those of you that raised your hands and said you were colorblind, this is probably you. This is the most common type of red-green colorblindness. In effect, yeah, of all colorblind men, this is around 75% of them. And I say males quite specifically, and I'll explain why shortly. So this is a reduced sensitivity to green light. I know it can be known as green blindness. And what you can often expect if you have this condition is reds, greens, and browns will be confused, blue, greens, and grays, light greens and yellows. I didn't know lime green existed until I read it on the back of my Game Boy Color as a child, and that they nicely embossed it. I'd thought for about 2 years it was yellow. And reds, oranges, and yellows, of course. And yes, and even some blues, purples, and dark pinks. So I don't see pink much, it tends to be white. Then there is protanopia. This is another kind of red-green color blindness. So we have the two, but it's far less common. So this is around a quarter of colorblind men, roughly. So this is all about red light, reduced sensitivity. And so these people confuse black with red. So the intensity of red is greatly diminished. And the difference here can be, it's like the difference between a light being on or off. And so black, like for the purposes of colorblindness, we have to consider black a color. Browns, greens, reds, and oranges often get blurred as well. Quite a lot of crossover with deuteranopia. Blues, purples, and dark pinks. And many reds and oranges, of course, very dim. And the third one, much rarer, is tritanopia. So this is very rare indeed. This is only around 1 in 10,000 people, although I have met one tritanope on this trip so far. They were with us on the train jam. And this affects men and women equally, because this is affected by a different chromosome to the other types of colorblindness. This is on chromosome 7, and this is not, rather than the X and Y, and this is equal between men and women. And this focuses on a reduced sensitivity to blue and yellow light. And so it's not often heard, there aren't many people, and they don't speak up about the issue, and so people don't expect these problems. So blue, greens, and grays are a problem. Dark purples, they can become black, and oranges with reds. So where does this come from? So little biology lesson. Men have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. Women have 2 X chromosomes. The advantage of this is that if there is a defect on an X chromosome for a woman, if the chromosome is fine on the other one, she does not suffer from the condition. There are many conditions that are more prevalent in men for this very reason, because if I have a problem on my X chromosome, and I do, my Y chromosome can't compensate. It doesn't have the reflective chromosomes to back it up. And so colorblindness is mostly hereditary. Deuteranopia and protanopia are a defect on the X chromosome. And so this is passed down, and this will be passed down to men. And it has to come from their mother in this case, because a man passes a Y chromosome to their son. And a woman can be a carrier, and it's then basically a 50-50 chance, does she pass the defective X chromosome to her son? For a woman to be colorblind of one of these two, her father must be colorblind, because that X chromosome must come down, and then it's a 50-50 from her mother. If her mother is colorblind and her father is colorblind, she's getting it. I am sorry. Tritanopia, of course, is different. This is defective chromosome 7. This is not a sexual chromosome. But also, this one can be triggered by other issues in the brain. So there can be illnesses and injuries, and some medications can cause tritanopia-like symptoms, and also age. So, and as you grow older, like your eyes change quite a lot. As many people know, you're likely to get more long-sighted, you're likely to need glasses, but you're also likely to lose your sensitivity to blue and yellow light. And so, in a way, designing for colorblindness is designing for you, just not yet. So it's different around the world as well. So across the world, around 1 in 12 men are colorblind, around 8% of men across the earth. Only 1 in 200 women, roughly. But when you scale up the numbers to so if you have 1 million players with a roughly 50-50 gender split, you would statistically expect colorblindness in over 40,000 of your male players and about 2,500 of your female players. That is if you have 1 million. Last I checked, Fortnite has, as of November, 125 million players. So there's a lot of players that can benefit from these features. This also changes depending on geography. So in Caucasian populations, this is genetic. It stays in the family. And it's much more common. So in Scandinavian men, it's around 10 to 11%, whereas in Asian men, it's only around 5%, and in Africa, it's only around 4%. So that's where it is. That's how it's caused. What happens when you're colorblind? And in short, life is a bit weird. So there are lots of things that I just can't see and can't do very well. So when I'm cooking meat, I generally overcook it just to be safe, because I can't see when it is browned properly. Like raw meat and cooked meat so often look the same. I've been called out for eating chicken. No, that's not cooked yet. And it's a little worrying. Any LEDs, any lights on anything, like on microphones, on routers, or like any other devices you have at home, the lights, because they're so bright, they just all start to look the same, along with red, green, yellow, orange. It's just all of the same. And fun fact, this is a screenshot from my phone that for ages when I first got the new phone, I would get a call, and I would try to answer it, and then the call would drop. And I didn't know why. It was getting really annoying. And then after a while, I realized I'm pressing the wrong damn button. Because even though even though there are 2 other parts of the language there, like the affirmative button is on the left, as usual. And it looks like the receiver is picking it up. And in the stress of the moment, even knowing I'm colorblind, I still go for the color. And I went for the button I thought was green, which was the wrong one. So I was hanging up loads and loads of calls, and I didn't know why. Fashion is a bit of a write-off. I quite like that. While I like one step is that there are labels in clothing to say which colors they are. That doesn't mean I know which colors go with what. So if I do want to try and dress fashionably, I genuinely need help. Or I just wear gray all the time. Apparently that's something called, is that burgundy? Right. A mythical creature called burgundy. I'll take your word for it. Cool. And same goes for, there are lots of people around GDC with different colored hair, and I have no idea what it is. I see a lot of what may or may not be blue, purple, or turquoise hair, or pink. It's like Schrodinger's hair color. It's one of those. I don't know which one. And if this is embarrassing to anyone, I don't know that either. Only a few years ago, I realized that blushing is real. I thought it was a cartoon thing. And it was only a few years ago I realized, wait, it's real, but the color blindness stops me from seeing it. And it's really annoying, this social cue that for all this time I could have been using and understanding people. This one came up last year, actually. This one affected a lot of people. So the uniforms this is of course soccer, I'm used to calling it football. Everything was going wrong here. So the 2 players were being indistinguishable from each other with the color blindness. And also, some of the players, they look like the pitch. They blend into the green of the grass. So it's not just distinguishing element A from element B, but it's both elements from the environment. And this is actually very translatable to games. There's something else that I've never seen. I've never seen that. That's not what I'd identify as. In my eyes, that's not what my skin color looks like. I look like this. And so do all of you, by the way. I know other people have looked at the simulators I see, to see my color blindness, and they're like, oh, everybody's green. And I was like, okay, yeah. When I was in primary school, I thought my friends had green skin. Because normally you don't have to tell children nobody's green. I was just going by what I could see. And to accommodate for the other types of color blindness, this is how they identify. So this is how protonopes see themselves, how tritonopes see themselves. Right. No. It can make medical emergencies are often missing a lot of information. I've had someone fainting in front of me before, like, and his skin white as a sheet, and I had no idea there was anything wrong with him. Like, I know until one of the ladies from Brand came in and was like, oh my God, I'm getting the nurse. But he was fine. He was fine in the end. A lot of people have some ideas and assumptions about color blindness and what it can and cannot let you do. So the question, can you drive? And the answer is, so can you distinguish traffic lights? And the answer is generally yes. Like, the traffic light systems are generally pretty well thought out. At night, red and yellow lights, or red and amber lights, will often look the same. But because of the pattern and the timing of them, it doesn't matter. Like, so for me, if I can see the green light, that means go. If I can see the flashing yellow light, at least in the UK, that means go. Everything else means stop. And so it's absolutely fine. So we're good. And now this one, a lot of people bring up, and this was popularized by the film Little Miss Sunshine. One of the characters, colorblind, wanted to be a pilot, and was told, you can't be a pilot if you're colorblind. But is that true? And the answer is, it's maybe. It depends on the strength of your colorblindness and how intense it is. So you can expect to be tested as an individual against the symbols and stuff they have. So if you can practically handle their stuff, even colorblind people can fly planes. Now this is my favorite slide. Does everyone recognize this? Yeah. Okay, we're doing this. Okay, raise your hands if you see a black and blue dress. Have a look around. Okay, hands down. And those that see white and gold. That is about 50-50. That's amazing. I love it. I see that. It's not that different. But when this happened, this was the best week of my life. Because it was like the world went colorblind for about a week and had no idea how to handle it. Because I don't remember not knowing I was colorblind. I found out very early in life. The question, why have you drawn the sea purple, Doug? I haven't, it's blue. It leads to a diagnosis fairly quickly. But what this also means is knowing that I've been colorblind the whole time is knowledge that what I'm seeing might not be real, might not be right. And I'm used to that. I'm used to being told, actually, no, that's not what this is, this thing that's right in front of your eyes. But people with normal vision, normal color vision, they're not used to that. I had a really curious experience. I was helping out at some medical students' exams as like a dummy patient. And one of the things they had to do was giving a colorblind test. So they said, oh, get Doug in. Like, he's actually colorblind. And so the student comes, they have around 7 minutes to run the Ishihara plate test, which is the dots and the circles that you see quite often. And then they have about 7 minutes to do that, and then they'll move on to something else. One of the students finished quite quickly. So went through the diagnosis, it was fine. And I was sat there with him and the examiner. And I had time, I asked, do you guys see anything in this plate? So it was one of the plates that I knew where, because of my colorblindness, I could see the number. It was very cleverly made. But the language was interesting in the response. They didn't say, I can't see a number. They said, there is no number there. And I said, well, I can see a number. And they said, no, there is no number there. And they're not used to this. Like, they're not used to the idea that, and they're used to, like, if they can see it, it's there, and that's all there is. It was really interesting. It's like a little philosophical, step up for me. So, right, okay, let's talk about video games. So, this is going to cover a few of the common issues in video games, not all of them, because we make games new every time, and so we reinvent our problems every time. So, but what we can expect is team colors are very common issues. Blending UI and characters and environment, like in the soccer game, this is common as an issue. Puzzles, color matching puzzles, clearly, and lots and lots and lots of UI information. I know we like color, it's so fast, it feels so intuitive, but it's exactly where I lose the problem. So first example, this is Battlefield 3. We're going back a few years now. So I was a huge fan of Battlefield 2 and 2142, and I never had any problems. Their color differences at the time, blue was friendly, yellow was squad mate, red was enemy. I just needed to shoot the red guys. That's fine. But they changed it in Battlefield 3. So squad mates were, I think, I don't actually know. Squad mates were green and the enemies were yellow, or was it the other way around? Or was one of them orange? I don't know. For me, they were basically the same. So I bought this game, and there were no colorblind modes. There was nothing. And I couldn't play it. Like, I could try and contextually figure out, like, I know someone went up there. Is that one of the guys? Is he on my mini-map? But I've already been shot. Like, these kids know how to shoot. But, yeah, and that was kind of heartbreaking for me, because I really loved the Battlefield series up to then. And then it was just roadblock. I couldn't go any further. So, another shooter, Overwatch. So this one, Overwatch is incredibly busy, incredibly complicated. You can choose your own skins, which are all different colors, and it creates a very complex colored landscape. And it all just starts to blend together. So those of you that can recognize Reaper, I know they're on the left in the black cloak. I can't tell his team color because the red hue over it just kind of blends, and it's not as intense as it needs to be. And then even the UI above them kind of blends into different parts of the environment. It's not clear. And similarly, puzzles. So is it straightforward enough? Color matching is difficult. That one in the bottom right is where I just see those colors and I just give up. I can see too many colors that I know for a fact I get wrong all the time, and there is no way for me to get them right. UI information. So, and using depth of hue and deepness of hue is so common, and it feels so good because it's a piece of information that if you're trichromatic, you feel it. I understand why it's great, but I can't. I can't see it. The greens. So this is from MechWarrior, and the green parts are the healthiest parts. Then yellow is in the middle, and then red is your mech is breaking down. And the healthiest look like the unhealthiest. And it takes away my ability to make decisions in the game. And this was a puzzle from Fable 3. I think this was making the pies. And I had to match colors, and I couldn't really tell. And someone was saying, well, they're just the same colors as on the Xbox controller. It's like, are they? I'll take your word for it, but it still doesn't help me. Even then, in Final Fantasy VII, I never considered that, for me, it was just a bunch of colors. I never considered that the materia, there might be information in these colors. It's just so scattered for me. So I didn't even know there was information really there. Right. So let's go to a game I worked on myself. So developing Halo Wars 2 with Color-Blindness. And this bit isn't really a success story, not for me. So I'll be covering some of the similar categories. So we have team colors, we had minimap and UI, we had decisions for campaign colors, and we had our Blitz card mode and some of the UI in that as well. So let's talk about team colors. So we had two teams with 3 players on each, and they wanted to communicate this with color. So they wanted to somehow find hues that felt like you would know which team you were on, and you would know which units were yours. And I didn't. So this is hard to talk about. The orange, yellow, and red, I think, tanks all just kind of look the same on the battlefield. And then the tank in the middle, for me, it looks more like part of their team than it does either of blues or purples. The tank at the top and the bottom, you can see, I think. And so I could sometimes just about tell which tanks were on my team in general. I could never tell which ones I was controlling. And similarly, on the minimap, there was so much information. I've been told it was there were too many colors being used, and in too small of things. This is blown up huge. This is like a couple of inches on the monitor. This was a small piece of UI with so much color information. I couldn't tell when points were captured. The units on one side just look like, I don't know, they're on a completely different team. I have no idea. And some of them I can't even really see. The dark ones blend into the background, and the lighter ones look like a foreground UI element. It's very difficult to use. All right, let's play a game. Your base is under attack. There are 2 enemy units on that map. Can you see them? Right. There they are. And I should stress to you, in all of these slides where I'm showing you two pictures, they're exactly the same to me. I needed a lot of help to put this talk together to ensure that when I'm actually showing something, there is a difference. But I see two identical images. The one labeled Deuteranopia, that's both of them for me. So, and when I first demoed this talk, I did make a mistake on one of the slides. I'd put the same image up there twice, and I didn't know because it looked the same other way. But yeah, so these were colors chosen to indicate the enemy versus my own friendly stuff for the campaign. And it didn't even occur to me until late in the project that, wait, how have we done this? Because I wasn't really seeing anything happening on the map. And I just thought we didn't show enemies on the map. Right? And it took a long time for me to realize this. Similarly, this is one of our cards from the Blitz card mode. And the three colors, the infantry, the cog for vehicles, and the aircraft, these should be showing what is this card good against. And I think from what I've talked to people before, like this looks like it's to me at least, this looks like it's neutral against infantry and vehicles, and probably bad against aircraft. But I think I'm wrong. I seem to remember the chopper is actually very good against infantry, but I wouldn't be able to tell. And on top of this, we had a very complex palette. We were trying to communicate so much all the time, and trying to find information for what kind of weapons were being used, and the intensity of the weaponry, and which units were on which side, and then when we're trying to, our environments were different as well. We wanted to bring out all the kind of lush Halo worlds, and they're all exciting colors, but it was so complicated. I can't, that red glow underneath the units, in that midst, I have no idea if I have units there as the red player. But I worked on this game. Why couldn't I solve any of these problems? Why couldn't I help point all these things out? And there's a missing link. So these problems are invisible if you don't have any problems with your color vision. To steal the old programmer phrase, it works on my machine. But the features are often invisible to me. So I don't know your feature is there. I can't bring it up. And a practical example. So I was fortunate enough to work on Alien Isolation as a senior audio QA. And while I was testing it, I would come up against these guys, the working Joes, excellent. But I would get kind of really frustrated when I was testing with them, because I would sometimes be hiding from one, and then I would stand up and he'd see me, and I'd think, oh, he's going to attack, and he just says to me, good day. I thought you were aggressive. And it was really annoying me that there was no way to tell visually if they were aggressive or not. But of course there was. And I didn't realize this until we were in finaling about a month or two out, that the eyes change color, they glow. But to me, with the color blindness, it would be like this for deuteranopes and protonopes, possibly tritonopes as well. There is no glow at all. It isn't just that the color is wrong, it's just the light doesn't arrive in my eyes. And so, but I didn't know the feature was there, and they didn't know it was broken. And so where was the conversation going to start? There was no one's job to bring this up. Another one, in Connect Star Wars, we had a pod racing mode, which uses a racing line with all the color schemes you expect in Forza and Gran Turismo and all of these now, where they go red in the braking zones. I didn't know this at the time. And then I got given a test case as a tester there to ensure that these were working, to ensure that the line goes red in the braking zones. To which my question was, wait, does it? Is it supposed to? And people around saying, yeah, it does. Well, I said, well, this isn't a colorblind friendly feature. Can we do something about it? And the response was, well, this is how Forza and everybody else does it. It is? This is what everyone else does? But I had no idea, until I saw this one test case, that this is why, I know, well, okay, it's not the only reason I suck at racing games, but it's a good excuse. Right, let's do something about this. We can solve these problems, though. Like, yeah. First one is an easy one. Don't just use color for any information you're trying to give. This is from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Websites have strict guidelines they have to abide by, and this is one of them. So color is not used as the only visual means of conveying information, indicating an action, prompting a response, or distinguishing a visual element. The WCAG guidelines are quite extensive, and they are built on years of industrial practice, and that road is also paved with lawsuits. They are serious. But of course, games are complicated, especially this bit, which I am ironically distinguishing with color. So because our games there's a whole world. We're trying to show different elements within. So you can see, like, websites you don't have to be able to tell if you can see a car from something or spot something in camouflage. But there are things we can do about this too. So if you want your game to be readable, you can think about palette design. There is research done. There are resources out there for you to be able to create a palette with no colors that are imperceptible to the colorblind. And this is a good standard practice. Like, if you don't want to have to think too much about it, if you can build this into a standard practice to make it, and you want a readable game, these resources are out there, and they are really good. All these slides will be available on the Vault afterwards, but take as many pictures as you like. But of course, this doesn't cover everything, because, as I said, we reinvent our games all the time, and we reinvent our problems all the time. Here's an easy one. If you have two things, and you can't have them get mixed up, blue and orange, every time. I know Portal, excellent example. Even in the early days of Halo, red versus blue. I know, like, red and orange are pretty close, but they will not go wrong. Not for the three types of color blindness. For achromatopsia, I don't think it covers that, unless you looked at the brightness. But there's further you can go into this, like, because the games are all different. So what's your game like? How are you using color? And what do you think? What is a color feature that you never thought was a color feature? Like, so in your puzzles, like, you don't realize that the colors distinguish different elements. Like in maps, the infamous red X of the Sea of Thieves map. Like, there X marks the spot for the treasure. I can't see the X. They have actually fixed that now. Like, they allow high contrast mode in the map. Thank you, Rare. Also, all of your UI information. So like, here's FTL with a huge complex array of different hues and things like that. So think about how you are using this. And of course, your team color is really obvious. Are your items different? So I think these are the Resident Evil herbs, like the red, green, and blue. Like, I don't want to spaff a really good, I don't want to use a really good plant on, like, when I've only got a tiny bit of health. I don't want to waste the resource. I want to be able to make the decision. And lights, like I said, in the real world, lights are difficult. In games, lights are difficult because there's a huge amount. It's just brightness, and they start to all become bright white lights. I was trying to go the wrong way down these trading lanes in Freelancer, again and again and again, and that got me killed by pirates so many times. And text as well. This is an example where it's okay. Largely because the orientation is the same. Like, the orientation is part of the language as well. So you generally would never get the Paragon lines in Mass Effect at the bottom, like in blue, and you wouldn't get the Rebel ones or the Renegade ones in red up at the top. So this is a decent example. But it's also, as you're figuring out which of these are your features, is your palette just going to wipe them all out? You need to see everything in context. But some of us work on big teams. Some of us have a lot of deadlines to get through. People are stressed. You don't have time for everyone to be thinking about color blindness all the time. So you can do some of that work up ahead. So if you need certain pieces of information communicated within your games through color, then give your artists a preset. So figure out what they are. Like, this is an example I came up with, but we'll see a real world example in a game later where this is exactly what they did. And you can give these to your designers. You can allow them to just say, right, your designers and artists just have to tag this as enemy, tag this as friendly, just in script. Or if you have faction colors, then just say, right, map this to the color for faction A. Make it a preset, so they don't have to spend time balancing the color itself. And you can use the color-safe palettes to inform all of this. So make sure they're clear. But then, of course, always test them in context, ideally with colorblind people. So if your company is large, there are probably some. I think pretty much nearly everyone here raised their hand and said they know someone with colorblindness. Exactly. And ask them, or ask me. Everyone wants this to work. And so we're all happy to talk about it. And also, this allows for your artists and designers to be safe in creating their game and knowing they don't have to worry about this aspect as much as they have to. If you're leading accessibility on your project, you can do a lot of the worrying for them, and they can just focus on the design. This is what you want to enable. And you can systematically manage it. And so if you user test it and you see that there is a problem in one of these presets or in one of the modes, then you can change this as a category. Make things easy for yourself to manage these deliveries. And there are also, of course, lots and lots of colorblind simulated tools. There are more and more. Every time I give this talk, I've heard about another one. So just some examples for you. So Color Oracle is a free one. Unity has a package. Unreal has a preview package. Photoshop has a simulator. There's a real-time one called Sim Daltonism. Chrome has plugins. And I have been using this to create this presentation. So this Cobliss colorblindness simulator, and it's browser-based. You drag an image into it, and you can just click through the different simulator types and see how do colorblind people see it. And another key part of this is, like I mentioned before, who starts the conversation? And it's you. It has to be you, because people that can't see the features can't talk about them. So you have to reach out, and I'm so glad to say this is already happening at my company. Since I started harping on about all of this, people come to me. People come to me and say, hey, I'm working on this feature. Can you see this? I'm making this puzzle. Can you see this? I'm getting it from both the teams in Creativity Assembly, and it's awesome. And this is how it should be. And it's just a matter of education, which is great. And right, so yeah, keep reaching out to the people you know. Let's see how some of these solutions work in games. So Hue, I think came out last year. So this is clearly a color game which is going to have a lot of trouble for someone like myself, because it's all about matching colors and changing different colors of environmental things. But they knew, they thought about it. And their colorblind mode was simply give everything symbols. Give everything something that people can definitely match. And the game isn't too fast-paced. You can take your time to observe these symbols, even though they can be a bit small. You have the time, and it enables me to play the game. This isn't a game where I have any trouble at all. Left 4 Dead. So Left 4 Dead has some complex color information going on. So there's apparently an enemy on top of a friendly there for me, but they just look like a lump of enemy. I don't even really know. They look the same. But I never had any problem with Left 4 Dead because it launched with a colorblind mode. So for example, there were 3 colors on display here, and I can see them all. This is what the colorblind mode looks like. So I can see the enemy is about to drop onto a friendly. I can see there is at least one more friendly on the floor, and I can see there is a fully healthy friendly on the right-hand side. I can see everything you can see when this works, and it's fantastic. So Faster Than Light FTL. So they had so much UI information going on, like different statuses, and then the rooms would change color to show that they were running out of oxygen and stuff. And it was like, but no, I never had a problem because they thought about it too. So with the colorblind mode, it overhauled all the depths of color and information, and all of the oxygen. There was a crosshatch when a room was out of oxygen. It was night and day, even for me, to see that, to get the information I needed to play the game and get my dudes out of that room. So I'm quite pleased to say we've done some of this work in Total War Warhammer as well. Total War Warhammer 2 is actually the first time we brought in our colorblind modes at Creative Assembly. I'm so pleased to see this is happening. It's just a start. To show you what they do, so Total War is complicated. We have complicated battlefields. There is so much information. There are so many things going on. But the key part is who are my friends and who are my enemies. And normally, I have no idea. Like but I do now. Like, and the colors may, to an art director's eye, they might not be ultimately pleasing, but they don't have to care. They can play the normal mode. I can play this one. Everybody wins. I have the option to make the game playable for me, and that is what I need. Similarly, text, and this is actually the slide I got wrong that one time, because I'd put up that image twice. So I think this one should be clear this time. And so, yeah, I can't tell. So for example, where it says winded and tired, those are problems. That is where you need action. They are in danger. But it looks so similar to an eager or high ground, flank secure. Like, I can't make decisions using this and using these colors. But now I can. Like, they might not be as intuitive as the colors we're used to using. Like, I know we always want to use red for danger and green for good. And, but I can't, like, colorblind people just can't process these. And so the most important part is give them the information to play with, and let them play your game. Now, Overwatch, this was an interesting example. So, of course, as I said before, there is a hell of a lot going on. Like, there's there are different UI categories they need, and the characters are busy, and like the colors are mixed against the background. It's difficult. You need a lot, and it's a fast game. You need to be able to make decisions like that. But their colorblind modes, I tried them out, and they weren't quite right. So there was still a problem. So the characters were a bit easier to distinguish from the backgrounds now, but the colors had changed, and enemy and friendly had kind of become the same. So I still couldn't really know how to shoot, or who to shoot. And this actually affected who I chose as characters. So are there any Anna mains here that play Overwatch? Yes, my people. But the reason I picked Anna was because it doesn't matter who I shoot. Because if it's an enemy, it hurts them, and if it's a friendly, it heals them. So that's why I picked them. And similarly with Orisa. Any Orisa mains? There aren't many anyway. She had a secondary ability which would pull all enemies into an area. Just to kind of make them easier to, either to pull them off a ledge or pull them out from behind cover of things. I would use it to tell in a group of people which ones were my enemies. That's what that enabled me to do. And it's just an accident, but it affected my decisions in playing the game. And, there is a streamer called Colorblind, and she has, I think, Protonopia, and has a lot of videos, quite passionate videos, going into what these colorblind modes are, like how they're a problem, where they're a problem. They're really good examples of where it can be difficult to achieve this. There's some very good ones there's a very passionate video of her trying the Enchroma glasses as well. It's quite heart-wrenching. Sorry. So color selection controls are the most exciting one. This is giving me the power to fix the problem. So audio surf, you have to match 5 colors, and fast. Having 5 colors that are distinct to a colorblind person is really hard. So don't try. Give me the buttons, and I'll figure it out myself. And I can make sure it works for me, and you don't even have to know what I see. You don't have to understand my condition to be able to help me. And this is perfect. Even some games would do it by mistake. So Worms Armageddon, all that time ago, I used to play with friends a lot. But with my friends, if I'm talking to my friends, I can agree with them which colors there were to allow me to play. So they could play the dark colors, and I could just be yellow. I can see that against all the others. Same with Red Alert. So I know they would let me pick the light blue, whatever, just so I could play the game with my friends, which is what everyone wants. And in fact, I called out Overwatch earlier. They have improved recently. I'm so pleased that they are still working on it. Like, I don't know the names of the people in Blizzard working on accessibility, but I'm really thankful that their mission continues, because this is a big change. So I can now set enemy and friendly to be completely different colors. So like, I've picked their blue and yellow. It's almost there. If I can choose the group color as well, then I can make it all work out. But because the group color was, at least last time I played, still locked to orange, I kind of had to have the colors the other way around to what was perfect. It was better, but it's almost there. And now we come full circle back to Battlefield. So Battlefield brought in a colorblind mode late in, about 9 months after release of Battlefield 3. They saw the problems that were there, and they dealt with it. But they have improved over time. So this was several months ago. This was in Battlefield 1, actually. And for a while, they had colorblind modes, which I know separated squad, team, and enemy color, and I could choose different ones. But they've upped their game. This is amazing. They don't even have to know what type of colorblindness you are. Like, I get a whole hue graph to choose from any colors, this way, I can make them not just be distinct from each other, but I can pick colors that stand out from the environment. Like, I can play this game and forget I'm colorblind, which is the point, which is exactly what I want. Like, and you can even do this without thinking about color at all. Like, so these two games, Gang Beasts and Star Wars, it's like, I don't have to know what color my character is. I'm a chicken. That's all I have to know. Or in Star Wars, like, and I could just say, what color are you? Sombrero. Like, so this, like, it's a great part of these kind of games anyway, like, and giving the players a way to like choose their characters, but it is an accessibility feature that you didn't know you'd put in, and it's excellent. And of course, it's also important to make sure people can access the features you've got. And so Fortnite here, there is a whole tab. Like, you go into the options menu, and people can see there is an accessibility tab. Like, find a way to make people know that there are accessibility features. I didn't know, although I called out audio surf as being really good, it was a long time before I actually thought to look or stumbled across it in the options menus. I didn't think it would be there. And so you have to be better than people's expectations of your game. Like, you have to be clear. Like, I know we support accessibility because people are used to assuming they're not. And so make a song and dance about it. It's great PR as well. And Fortnite's one was particularly interesting because people are actually getting diagnosed almost accidentally through Fortnite, because people don't understand. There's a lot of young people playing. Like, it's great. They can't even say tritanopia. Like, I hear them on YouTube videos trying to talk about this, but they can still make it work for them because they just set the settings to work best for what they can see. They solve the llama puzzle for themselves. It's perfect. But it's something funny happened on Monday. So at the Game Accessibility Conference, Bryce Johnson was speaking about the Xbox Adaptive Game Controller, which is incredible. And there was a moment where they have audio transcripts, so for deaf users watching. And there was a moment where he did an impression of someone. And he was saying, oh, why don't people always support these? And he was doing an impression. And so the typist wrote gamer bro voice. And it came up on screen. And people were laughing about it. And people were taking pictures. But then she typed something else. And that's when I took a picture. She typed the word blushing. I knew someone was blushing. This had never happened before. So this was not an accessibility feature. This was not an accessibility aimed to help colorblind people. And in fact, this is something we should have here, at GDC ideally. I want to call that out. I know we can and should be supporting these. These talks should be accessible themselves. So I know we should be focusing on having deaf support, mobility support. But a key part is these features affect a lot. These features help a lot of people all at once. So this is a feature that ideally, initially, to help deaf people, but it also helps people with struggling attention spans who can look back and then read, if they phase out of what someone was saying, they can still pick up on it. some people take in information better reading, and I got to know when someone was blushing. This was new, and we can think about this. So when you're thinking about colorblind features, think further, because improving visual clarity helps more than just people like me. So it helps colorblind people, but it also helps people with achromatopsia. It helps people with low vision issues. And people get cataracts. We're all going to be having some of these problems someday, probably. And then also brain injuries, impaired hearing. The visual information becomes more and more important, and the more and if you lose your hearing. And so making it as clear as possible, giving people the choice of how to manage it, is so important. And even cognitive disabilities. So so many of their issues are to do with how they receive information. And giving them control over the visual input they get can enable new players all over again. There's someone else that this helps. It's everybody. Let's go back to Fortnite for a moment. So there is a tritanopia mode that is used a lot in Fortnite, but there aren't many tritanopic players. So who's playing this? And it's everybody. People are looking for the clearest way to play. And so there are loads and loads of these videos saying, here are the best colorblind settings you can have to make Fortnite really easy to see. It makes the loot show up, it makes the enemies show up. And this shows you something. This shows that people want a clear experience. People want a clear and readable experience. If you give them the choice, they ship the experience you want to do, but give them the choice to tune it to themselves, to make it perfect for them, because we don't know. Everyone is different. But this is, you can help so many people and bring on so many new players and widen these communities so much more if you just think, how many people can I help with this solution? And work it in, think ahead. So let's wrap this up. So, key steps. Understand your palette and your colorblind features. What does your game do with color? And don't just communicate with color either. So I think I've read those the wrong way around. There are preview tools all over the place. Use them, try to understand, and do some of the work in advance to kind of get used to where there might be problems. Over time, it will start to become intuitive. Use color preset systems if that works for people. And I shuffled some of these last night just to fit more in. But ideally, find the best solutions for your game and make them wide-reaching. Think about how many people you can deal with with a single feature. But also test it. So, there are consultants out there. You know people. I know you may have friends and relatives, and they will love to see this working. It's really exciting. And also make sure people can find these options. And of course, your community. Ask them for feedback. If you ask them, hey, are people having accessibility options? People will say something, and they will be so thrilled that you care, because they don't know unless you say something. And I want to talk about how important this is for a moment. So it doesn't always feel like it. Colorblindness is just a frustration in life most of the time. But when I get to a situation in a game, I love video games. And so do some of the other colorblind players. They love them. And then if you just hit a wall because of something you can't change, it's heartbreaking. And so but here's the thing, when I say if someone is showing that they're trying, so I don't care if the colorblind modes don't quite work. I don't really care if they're broken. Someone is trying to help me. They're trying to solve a problem for me that they can't even see. They're doing this for me, and it's so important. So I really mean this when I say thank you. And that's it. So we have 5 minutes for questions. And so please come up to the mics if you'd like to ask anything, or find me afterwards. I'll just be outside. All right. Do we have any? And also, if you're going to take one picture today, take that one. All right, cool. Hello.
Hi, one question for you. Do you prefer the bespoke individual UI adjustments for color, or doing whole screen color blindness color correction?
So do I prefer UI controls over changing the whole screen color? So I think I prefer just changing the UI colors, because changing the whole screen, so think of it this way. I'm glad I still have this. So you see the strip where it says Deuteranopia? That's my world. Like, I don't need my world changing. I just want to know what the signs say. So I think I would say I prefer just give control over the UI. I don't need the entire screen to change color. Some people do that because they think that this will make it work, and like this will make it readable. And sometimes it does, but there is no guarantee that it does. So it's whatever solves the problem. Again, like the best solution for your game. But I think I prefer the UI. Cool. Thanks. Hello.
Great talk. Thank you very much. I was wondering if you have any suggestions. You talk about having color information and then supporting it with other information. Is there any best practice on developing a shape language that's fast to identify different things, like in puzzle games or UI elements?
So is there a standard on developing shape languages for these? I would say no, because the things you need to communicate with that shape language, they change for every single game. So a lot of these kind of develop culturally. So like we have the play button for Go, we have the fast forward for go forward. And those kind of built up over time. But in short, if you're not sure if your shape language works for people that can't see the colors, then ask them. Like I know. So bring in some people that can tell you exactly how they experience your game, and that should be the best way. So if you're not sure, ask. Like, thank you. Hello.
Hello. So I was working on a game with my team, and I was demoing it to a bunch of people who worked in our organization, and I started to realize from people playtesting that they didn't understand when certain things were happening in the game, because there was mostly color information and there was subtle movement on the screen. But if you blinked, you basically would miss that and not know what was happening. And so I try to bring that to one of the producers who is in charge of prioritizing what features we would add to the game. And a struggle that I encountered is that sometimes they think that a bunch of other features are a lot more important than accessibility. And I wonder if you have any tips for communicating the importance of accessibility early on, as opposed to something that you tack on later once other, quote, priority things are accomplished first.
I'm really glad you asked this question, because I struggle with this as well. So to summarize, the question being, how do you convince other people of the importance of accessibility over the priority of other features? So I struggle with this at Creative Assembly. Like, there is lots of important work to do. And some of the things that I've found that have worked is, one, going on about it. Because I talk to people about it all the time, and other people, it steadily builds interest in a cultural way. But also, when you're trying to convince someone to do something, especially if you're trying to convince a producer to do something, find a way, make sure you arrive with a solution. So something we can do, because if you can give them a solution that fits within the costs of their project and fits within the timeframes of their project, and they lose the reason to knee-jerk no, and then it becomes something you can think about and discuss, and also even if the feature comes late, because in a way if this feature comes a little after release, I've seen it happen in games. And where their game was released and then accessibility features come in later, it's better late than never. It's still in the right direction. And also, if it's developed then if you're doing sequels or DLC, you've got it now. And so that's what I'd advise is educate as many people as you can about the reality, and ideally give people actionable solutions to help them help. Because most people want to, they just don't know what to do.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think we're there. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.